Hello, and welcome to this edition of the Angels and Destiny Show. Why is this show called this, you may ask? So I'll tell you. The accepted meaning of angel is messenger, and the accepted meaning of destiny is to make firm establish. So my guest and I bring you messages to establish what you need to know in the present. And of course, I do like working with angels and the calmness they bring. Now, in a moment, I want to introduce you to my wonderful returning guest, Raphael Rey. But before that, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching the show live at a later date, as it means a lot to both of us to connect with like-minded people. Now, if you've never met me before, then my name is Ray, and I'm the founder of Radiant Angel Energy. And I'm a guide who helps you remember your divine presence so that you can heal your past, find your purpose, create your future, to expand your consciousness, understand your spiritual path, get clarity on your next steps, and take charge of your destiny so that you can fulfill your purpose in this lifetime. Now, each episode of this show covers various themes of your journey, a mini guided meditation, or an angel oracle card reading with the wisdom of my wonderful guests, like today's guest, Raphael Rey, about spirituality and the future, and wherever else that conversation may go. Now, Raphael is an astrologer, tarot reader, numerologist, and energy worker. He's built a thriving YouTube channel made of a much loved community and serves people using his skills as an intuitive consultant. Raph believes that everyone has something special within them to share. They just sometimes need help discovering that gift and guidance on where to go, as life can get a bit rocky at times. Now, with testimonials such as I would highly recommend Raphael, I had a tarot reading which was amazing, so accurate and awe-inspired. He was also so much fun and a breath of fresh air. If you have been on the fence about a reading or service of his, jump off that fence and take a leap of faith. And Raph has been my spiritual consultant for over 6 months, and I cannot imagine navigating my life and business without his insight and guidance. His knowledge of numerology, tarot, and astrology blow me away every time, and his guidance has allowed me to better plan ahead, result in increased revenue in my business, better health, and a greater understanding of where my life is going. And I personally highly recommend RAF as well, as I've had readings with the various services that RAF offers, and the insights have always been absolutely amazing. So I would definitely recommend checking him out. So without further delay, hello, Raf, and welcome back to the Angels of Destiny show. How are you today?
Hi, Ray. First of all, thank you so much for all of the high praise. I really, really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure for me to be here. We say this every time. We always have such a good time. We talk about some amazing things and we always get into it. And there's usually a little bit of mischief here and there, which never goes amiss, which is absolutely great. So, really happy to be here and really happy to get into an exciting topic. Thank you.
Okay, so before we do get into this fascinating conversation, I want to remind everyone watching that not only can you share this video, but you can also ask questions, leave comments and thoughts, as both Raph and I want to be part of this conversation. So please don't be shy and say hello, as I know I can see we've got viewers watching. So let us know you're here. So Raph, why don't you remind us a bit about your journey and how FLP exploration can help with spirituality and the future?
Yeah, okay. So my journey, oh gosh, started from being a teen, really. And we were just saying this before we got started. I started actually just I say just reading playing cards, very quickly graduated to tarot, had always been talking about star signs and various different weird and wonderful things in the world. Now, my sort of experience with anything and everything spiritual, mystical, magical, started very early. I was always very into those things. As you know, we've got Anne in common. I remember watching her read for the entire social circle of my mum's. You know, she's legendary. So it started really very early for me. And I was just thinking about this the other day. Even friends that I have now from when I was a teen have all said to me, like, we always knew that you were into this stuff, but to see you actually sort of doing it and living it at this age that we are now, you really, really are in it. I went through some pretty challenging times. around probably my early 20s and then again in my late 20s. So I got a little reprieve somewhere in the middle. But yeah, and holding and having that spiritual side of my life, I really think has carried me through those difficult challenges. And really having them, I think, has actually not only helped me be a better of service for others, but it's also reminded me that as spiritual as we can be, life is also very real and very gritty at times as well. And that's kind of like my balance. I like to keep it super practical. I always say to my community, I love the woo woo and we're all into that, but we keep our feet on the ground as well.
Yeah, definitely keeping feet onto the ground. And we have got April Lynn Harwood Davis is saying hello. Hello,
Hey,
April. Cynthia. Hi, Cynthia. Great to see you from Scottsdale, Arizona.
hey, hello.
Another FLP like us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've got the Big Steph 63. Hi, been a shy long time follower of Raf's channel. Great to be here. Great for coming out and not being shy and saying hello. Welcome.
Welcome, 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 everybody. Thank you so much for being here. So, FLP, I was mystified and really super curious and intrigued by this idea. I'd heard a lot about past life regression and the wonderful things that it had done for people. When I realized that you could do the opposite of that and go into the future, I was absolutely hooked. This idea that actually we can get information, from our future selves, from future versions of other people, and bring that information into the present absolutely blew my mind. And I remember taking my first FLP course and just being completely like, okay, this is life changing, right? Just really, really incredible stuff. And what it's really helped me understand is that you can bring amazing insights and results, and very often it brings the guidance that people really need. My personal sort of big first experience was with FLP, and I tell this story every time because it still to this day actually blows my mind. I'm still like so amazingly excited about it. And when people ask me about FLP, I always tell them this story because it's real for me. It's not like something that I dreamed up or anything like that. Like this was a real experience that I had. So Anne took me into the future, and I see myself there in this blue shirt talking to people, like giving like a proper talk and a speech and stuff. And I was thinking, I don't know, because I don't wear shirts. So that was my first moment of like, oh, it was really good and it felt great. Like in the vision itself, I remember feeling really awesome and really in control and really in command. Fast forward almost a year later, I was invited to speak at an event of a really well-known energy worker, and the events of how that all unfolded were so synchronous. Like I wish I could say like I manifested that, but the truth is I didn't. It happened for me and to me, and just still blows my mind. So I get there, super nervous. I'm getting ready and put my blue shirt on, and I step out. And just before I go to speak, I was like, hang on a sec, here I am, right? Blue shirt. And it just completely blew my mind because it was like the future that I had seen and my present had caught up with each other. And that, after that moment, I was like hooked. Look, I got goosebumps. Right. Love those moments. So, yeah, it wasn't just a validation for me. It was a moment where the belief and the understanding were really confirmed and strengthened as well. Now, in terms of FLP, Ray, I know you talk a lot about this as well in your work, this idea of identity shifting, right? Being the person that we want to be, but more of that person now. Well, when you go into the future and you see yourself having experienced what you desire, like what you're trying to do, stepping into that, because you've actually seen it, it's not just imagination, it's not even just visualization anymore, it's got weight because you can see that you've already lived it, right? You're seeing yourself in the future, having that thing, experiencing that, and those frequent trips into that future version of yourself, it makes identity shifting not only that much easier, but more powerful. And it's really helped me sort of understand that humanity, like as humanity evolves, our challenges are going to evolve as well. Now, that might seem, like really obvious, but when you like on another level of consciousness, it's really quite amazing,
Yeah.
which really leads me very nicely to the astrological consideration of all of what's going to be starting and taking place as of next year. Any questions or considerations on that so far?
Not from me at that moment, but April said, "We're standing on a chair as you're speaking, of feet on the ground."
I love it. As long as you're here with us, it's all good. Hi,
Exactly.
Suze, and hello, Eric. Lovely
Eric.
to have you both.
Yeah, brilliant to have you both here. Yeah, and it's always great to hear someone else talking about FLP and explaining it and going, "Oh, I've never used that word before. Might have to actually use that." But it's brilliant because the way I might explain it, the way Cynthia might explain it, the way you explain it are similar, but they have a different slant on it, which I think is absolutely amazing because someone who might not understand what I'm talking about will understand what you're talking about. And I think that
Yeah,
is
and
that's
likewise
so
as well.
brilliant. Yeah, 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 definitely. So FLP and astrology. How does that work?
Oh, so, and this is something that I'm really excited to start jumping into more of, because astrology is really like a lot of the time you're talking about forecasts, right? Some astrologers will say you can't predict the future with astrology. I totally disagree.
Mm,
Right? Some will say that you totally can. I'm in that camp. But really and truthfully, the way that I see and utilize astrology is that the sky is a grand clock. So it really helps us understand the timing of things, the season that we're in, those broad strokes of experience that we're in. And what I'm starting to understand is that now, once you've got a handle on the symbolism and what's taking place with it, using FLP to go into those events and gain more insight and more information and more detail is going to be a very exciting exploration. So, as you already know this, Ray, we've talked about this before, but next year, Saturn and Neptune are both going to move into the sign of Aries. They're going to dip their toes into Aries and then they're going to retrograde back out. They're both currently in the sign of Pisces. Certainly, from a tropical Western astrology sort of perspective, there are various different types and house systems of astrology, but I use whole sign tropical Western astrology. And so Saturn and Neptune are currently in the sign of Pisces. When these two planets come together, they usually create very big shifts in the material world. And this one's taking place in the sign of Aries. Now, Saturn is the structure of our world. It's the lines, the limitations, it's the tangible. It represents authority, like that hard line in the sand. Whereas Neptune is on the complete opposite end of the scale, right? It's intangible, it's mystical, it's magical. It represents the desire to kind of disappear and meld into the cosmos. And, at some base level, even the most sort of unspiritual people have that, right? They've got that yearning for whatever we're connected to that we can't see. And so what I'm seeing with this is like the colliding of the material and the immaterial worlds. They're going to start to really fuse. Now, we as human beings, I think a big part of what happens as a result of this, we become more porous. We become more sensitive. Our extrasensory abilities are more powerfully coming online, probably than ever before in history. Well, I don't know if you count the Atlantean age, because I mean
Mm.
they were super advanced, right? Like they had so much more capability. Um, I mean, they did throw us into a dark age, so who knows?
Mm. But
Well, yeah, well, exactly, right? It can be argued, but all jokes aside, I really feel that we are becoming more sensitive, right? I think the path of Uranus moving through Aquarius upgraded the human nervous system. And now, as we've moved forward, Uranus is currently in Taurus, it's upgraded our physical bodies so that we can start to process new types of sensations and new types of information. When it comes into the sign of Gemini next year, what's going to, again, just dip its toes, that's going to upgrade the mind. So that's for a whole other show.
right,
um,
we booked that one in.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We'll be closer to the ethereal realms in all senses, in all ways. We'll be getting a lot more information. And I guess the beauty of this is that both planets, Neptune and Saturn, truth be told, are very spiritual in nature, just in really different ways. And, this really speaks to what human beings are. We're spirits inside a body. And as I like to say, like I see human beings as like the bridge between heaven and earth, right? Like we meet in the middle. That the way that they meet in the middle is through us as human beings. Now, if Aries is the sign of the self, this means that there's going to be a revealing of the true nature of the self. But in a way, and I guess to that, like it's also possible that we're going to see spirituality come up against limits. Spirituality, Neptune, coming up against limits, Saturn. We might see a clamping down of these mystical or magical or spiritual sciences, as I like to call them. If Neptune washes things, and the reason I say this is because Saturn's the authority, and we're going to be talking about this in the sign of the self in Aries. Now, what happens when we take the middleman out? Those middlemen and the people that govern those middlemen don't really like that so much, right?
Right.
There tends to be and we've already seen, we saw a lot of censorship around these kinds of things, and I understand why. However, I also understand that it's not enough. And I'm going to go into this shortly. Excuse me. If Neptune is the waters and the seas, it washes things away, right? So water cleanses things, but fire, right? So Neptune is the water, fire is the Aries energy, the cardinal fire sign. Um, Fire purifies. So we're being washed and cleansed, and we're also going to be purified. What happens to the person, or when the personal fire of who we are is cleansed or baptized, I guess, if you like to see it that way, the idea of self or separateness is completely washed away. When Neptune and Saturn come together, we usually see a very tangible shift in ideology. And you can see this because the last time these two planets came into a conjunction was 1989, and we had the fall of the Berlin Wall. And these two planets came together in the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn is structures, it's walls, it's society, right?
Yeah.
The idea of self and separateness being washed away. Neptune can have a deceptive or a foggy kind of energy to it as well. So that's something that we do need to be aware of, right? We need to watch out for that. If Saturn is the planet of limitation, delayed gratification, usually at home in like an earth sign or an air sign, comes into the fire element that it's not necessarily 100% comfortable in. What do we get when we mix fire and earth? Lava. Right? So, this is the rule of law or societal norms in the sign of Aries or the sign of the self, potentially provides a clamping down on what we believe, Neptune, for ourselves, Aries. So, since Neptune is anything mystical and magical, maybe the authority or Saturn decides to clamp down on our desire for more leaning towards these things. You'll see this a lot next year, and it's really, really important. And I say this to everybody out there that's watching this: push back on it as hard as you possibly can.
Yeah.
We have a universe born given right to believe what we desire to believe, to what we know to be true for ourselves in our hearts, and also to experiment and understand how magic and mystery and spirituality really are our birthright.
Yeah.
You know, like, as hard as you can, rally and rage against the censoring of these things. Don't let them take them from us, because the only, this is, it will be the modern equivalent of the book burning, right? Trying to erase that idea of spirituality. The problem comes in not being able to enforce it. They tried this with the whole, thing.
Yeah.
And look at how all of that came out, right? What's really funny is I remember that time because in 2020 I put out a video on YouTube called Natural Ways to Battle C19. And it like literally got pulled down. I got a violation message on YouTube, like, this goes against our. And I was like, it's the first time I'd ever misbehaved on YouTube. I wish I could say in life, but definitely not. But certainly on YouTube, I was like, oh, like I must have really, really misbehaved here. And yet, I remember putting that video out, and it was an important video just to remind people, like, you have everything that you need at your disposal already to overcome this. And I think it's exactly the same in terms of spirituality. That being said, I do see next year, 2025, as a reboot of humanity, or a fresh start for us in terms of spirituality. And it's going to show us that the future of the soul of humanity is being reborn in some way. First, we're going to be cleansed by water, then we're going to be purified by fire, and finally, we're going to re-establish in earth, right? And what I feel this really means for us is that we're putting spirituality in its rightful place along with everything else. And all it took was an incredible amount of air to happen, right? Now we're in a grand era of air conjunctions, and that goes back to the Great Conjunction of 2020. So that part of next year, I think, is going to be huge. And we don't have the exact conjunction. Neptune and Saturn are going to flirt with each other at 1 to 2 degrees of Aries all year next year, come back into Pisces to finish up. And then on the 20th of February, 2026, Saturn and Neptune will conjunct in the sign of Aries exactly. So we get a little taster, and then it's going to come back, and then we'll get the full whack of it in 2026. Any questions, ideas on that so far?
Okay, well, Big Stephen 63 said Neptune in Pisces has felt like mis or disinformation time, as in one's feelings are more important than facts.
Oh, absolutely. And we can see the way that this has played out online, right? In so many different arenas. And it's unfortunate because Pisces doesn't have any boundaries. And Neptune is gaseous. It's, if Neptune is the sea or the ocean, what happens when it doesn't have, it's kind of like, imagine the land didn't go up. If the land was all just one flat, everything would be water on the planet,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, we'd have gills. We'd be mer people.
Yeah, absolutely. There's hope for Aquaman yet, then.
There is. As long as it's Aquaman and we won't go into the other part of it.
Absolutely. So in terms of spirituality, if Aries represents the birth point of the zodiac, it's the first breath. It's the full and total sense of self, of being here and alive. And with such a shift in the energy of this sign, Mercury will retrograde in Aries next year and come back into Pisces. Venus will do the same. Saturn will do the same. Neptune will do the same. And and then, as if that wasn't enough, the ruler of Aries, Mars, starts its retrograde. It did literally just 2 days ago in the sign of Leo. Trust me, I know, because with that retrograde, my back went ping. I was like, I definitely felt that one viscerally. And that will come back into the sign of Cancer, and it won't actually leave Cancer until late April of 2024, of 2025, sorry. So if Leo is another sign of the self, but it's the true heart of the self, comes back into the sign of Cancer, which is compassion, domesticity, and the celestial mother. We're being reminded that sometimes a return to the old ways of spirituality really are best. But who gets to decide? Well, Pluto, currently in the sign of Aquarius, the people will have their way, one way or another. I genuinely believe this. If Pluto represents power, it's in the sign of the people, Aquarius. We're now truly in the age of Aquarius, if there ever was one. And so, this idea that spirituality belongs to the people and it should be wrought or written into our experience as humanity is absolutely evident. I genuinely believe this. And so, they will try to censor and edit and limit. Well, you can't talk about astrology unless they'll try to put rules and limits.
Yeah.
And oh, you're an energy worker, and oh, well, you oracle card this, and angels.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, they're going to try to do all of that finger wagging. We're not buying it this time. You had us locked up in our homes for 2 years, all the while you guys were partying it on down. We're not having that anymore. And it's like we collectively really step into our power with Pluto and Aquarius, and we decide that spirituality, the mystical and magical and sensitive making energies that are coming in are vital. Why? Well, we get to hold on to our humanity. And the way that I see this is, as technology advances, and I mean, we've talked about this, right? Right. As technology advances, holding on to what makes us human is going to be so important. And as much as I love me some Chat GPT or Opus Clips and all of those things, as much as I love all of the new wave of technology that's coming in, they will never have intuition like it is to be human. You can't teach that to a machine because it's a biological process. That's, we are the bridge between heaven and earth, right? We're an organic. You can't, no matter how advanced it gets, I will stand by this until I take my last breath. No matter how advanced it gets, it will never be able, it will mimic life scarily really well,
Yeah.
and it might be able to crunch numbers and kind of predict what you'll do based on algorithms and all the rest of it. For those of you that are big nerds like me, Zola's algorithm, did you in Captain America the Winter Soldier, and it's so well hidden, right? I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on here, by the way, guys. Cool. It's so well hidden. There's a line in that film. It's a Marvel film. So I love Marvel films. Where he talks about Zola's algorithm. It's just a really short section. He said, "Well, what is that?" And he said, "It's you. They take all of your receipts, things that you've bought in the past, your profile on Facebook. They take all of that, and they use it to predict what you'll do next. I have no doubt that they can do really good and really scary stuff using said algorithm, but they still can't recreate intuition. They still can't, that psychic, ethereal look. I got goosebumps talking about it, right? That
Yeah,
psychic, ethereal, biological, know it in your gut. You'll never be able to program that into anything because it's human.
exactly. And it's kind of like, even if, they were to get those predictions, we've got the human side of us that at that last second, you'll change. Something will come in, you'll do something different that completely throws that. It's like prophecies, yes, there might be prophecies, and if you were to go into, if the elite, whatever, have already looked into the prophecies of the future, etc., you still have that human aspect that you can change things. It's like with future life progression. Yes, you go into the future and you see, feel, understand, know what you're doing. But if you don't take those steps or you take a slightly different path, you've changed your timeline.
Absolutely. I love that you brought that up because it's such an important point. I have a lot of people say this to me, like, well, now that you've made this prediction, Raf, can I not change it? And I always say to them, of course you can change it. That's the whole reason that human beings came up with all of these systems of oracular things, right? It's why we stargaze, it's why we look at charts, it's why we pull tarot cards. Once you understand the pattern that is unfolding on the path that you're on, that's where your free will really kicks in. You can allow that to take place or to unfold, or you can say, actually, you know what? No, I don't want that. I want something else. And you build a plan towards it. And it's funny because I put this in an email that I sent out on, I don't know if it was this week or last week. But the last tarot course that I was teaching, so I teach tarot, I take 20 students at a time, and I love my course and I love my students. They've been incredible. And one of the girls, she didn't have anyone to practice on. So I said to her, no pressure, but read for me, right? She did an incredible job. And I remember her saying to me very clearly, she was like, yeah, she said, you'll move, you'll get your house. She said, all of that. She said, but unfortunately, you won't be doing it on your own. You'll have to have a housemate. And I was like, that does not work for me. Right. So I took the information that she gave me and I built a plan step by step to make it happen differently. And that is how you use predictions, how you tap into the future, how you change the future. So it's not like that your FLP session was wrong or that the prediction was wrong. Your choice affects the future or the experience that you have. Why? Because the universe doesn't tamper with free will. And thank heaven for that, right?
God, yeah. And that's the thing that's going to get us through any clampdowns that they try and have is our free will.
Preach, Ray. Preach. Yeah, absolutely. Our free will and our humanity are absolutely going to take us beyond it, which opens up the next thing that I want to talk about, which is evolved problems. As we, humanity, shift who we are, what's important to us, and we evolve into more sensitive, more compassionate beings who are not necessarily super powered, but remembering what our gifts actually are, re-accessing parts of our brain and our psyche and bringing, that newly refined nervous system, Uranus moving through Aquarius, upgraded the nervous system. Uranus moving through Pisces, upgraded our interdimensional. I mean, and it's really interesting, right? Now that we've got Uranus in Taurus, you think about how many people are opening up to channeling, bringing in different information. It
Yeah.
went through Aries. That one brought us it brought us Instagram. So everything in its right time and
Yeah.
place. But coming into Taurus, I think Uranus has upgraded our bodies to be able to handle more and faster bouts of information. And when it moves into Gemini, as I said earlier, it's going to upgrade the noggin so that we are. I openly say this. I'm not afraid or ashamed to admit it. I think the path of Uranus moving through Gemini will bring the telepathic abilities of humans very much to the fore. I really do see, and this was something else that I saw actually in an FLP session that Anne took me on. As we start to remember what our true gifts are, what powers actually belong in our remit just by being the evolved version of humanity, as we remember these things, we're no longer scrabbling in the wrong spaces. And so we're no longer looking to focus on money and profit and greed. Well, what happens when we start looking beyond that? Our problems and the questions that we're driven to answer, the needs that we have, they evolve, they change in a big way. Einstein said that necessity was the mother of all invention. And I don't, not that my opinion counts versus Einstein, but not only do I think that he was right, but going beyond the science part of it into deep psychology and the ecology of it, when our questions are bigger and further beyond ourselves and more altruistic than ever, our questions and creations become international and global, and beyond that, interplanetary. We begin to understand other forms of life, other forms of love, other forms of spirituality. And that is truly, truly very exciting to see where we could possibly go from here, right? Whether you love him or loathe him. And I always use this guy as an I don't actually know why. I think it's because I'm genuinely fascinated by him. Whether you love him or loathe him, I like Elon Musk because he's just such a fascinating human. His drive and his direction, and I really love that he's not afraid to think outside the box. Like, I remember reading an article of a guy he had contacted, and he said, I need to make this, and this. And the guy said to him, well, you could do that, but this part of it's probably not going to work. And that might actually take you about 5 years to build. And quite frankly, this bit of what you're trying to do doesn't actually exist yet. So no, unfortunately, I can't help you. He disappeared. I've forgotten his name, but he still tells this story today. He said, okay, no problem. And he went and he hired somebody else. SpaceX is doing its thing, right? So he got the job done in whichever way. And, Big Steve says, loathe him. Whether you love or loathe him, I just find him fascinating. And whatever he is building or creating, what if a part of that answers some of the questions that we're going to need answered for humanity to go where it needs to go? It's just a very, very interesting idea. The other thing as well, Rick Levine, who is a legend in the astrology world, what he's forgotten about astrology could fill a library, right? Let alone what he knows. He's such a lovely human being as well. I remember him saying, we've got all of these forever chemicals floating around our waters and our food, and it's, such a real shame and stuff. But he said, look, I'm not promoting this idea or saying that it's a good thing. He said, but what if the future of where humanity is going and what it needs to evolve into actually needs those chemicals in order to get to that vibrational state? And I was like, wow. Yeah, because he said, nature always knows what it's doing. It will always create what it needs to. And it made me really broaden my perspective for a moment. Not that I think those things are great, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean that's things that nature does know. It's only when we start messing about with nature that's when things start falling out. I think back to, and I've mentioned this to other people before. some years ago, because as people know, I've been going down to Glastonbury for 20 plus odd years, etc. And I went down Glastonbury, and it was like the whole town was dead. Shops were shut. I mean, I was literally on the tour trying to put energy back into the tour because it felt like it had been completely depleted. Then within a few months, we had the Somerset floods, completely cleared the whole thing. Next time I went down, Glastonbury was actually thriving and blooming, and the energy was all back. And that's because Mother Nature had taken charge and gone, right, okay, I need to clear some stuff out here and revitalize everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. The mother, as I like to call the earth, she's adept at healing herself. And if
Yeah.
it means taking us out or putting us in a timeout to do so, she will do
She's
it.
she's going to do it. Yeah, exactly. And Big Steve 63 loathes Elon Musk,
But
which is
yeah,
which is absolutely fine. Because we
absolutely.
we we need people to have opposite opinions, because that means somebody is not going to be in that position of complete worshipped and powered. And so you need to have two different ideas and thoughts about people.
Absolutely.
My own personal view, I think Elon Musk is here to shake up things. I don't love him. I don't loathe him. He's here to do a job, and and as several people and I quite agree. He's not of this planet originally. He is definitely a star seed that has come in, and I'm just waiting and watching and seeing how it evolves, but using my own um, perception, my own autonomy and thinking as to, yes, there are some bits I agree with him, there are other bits I don't. But I want to see where this is going, because that's why we're alive on Earth at this time, to see where things are, to help make those decisions. We wouldn't be here
Yes.
otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know what I love about what you said there as well? Like needing that contrast and having people not like him and to check him and to keep his feet on the ground as well. So important. We've seen this when you look back through history, as the saying goes, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And it really, really does. Big Steve says that's human design cosmology, Raf, at some level. Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. Who's to say what we're going to need and what those changes create in us, right? I think is really exciting to consider where it goes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The last thing that I wanted to add is, where do we go from here?
Yes.
Honestly, I don't profess to have all of the answers.
Do any of us have?
Right? What I can tell you is that where we are going is vastly different. And what's really interesting to me is every time I go into like the far future, I always see an element of the same thing. And this started for me in 2019. This was when I did my first FLP training with Anne. When she took me forward, I saw a time where there are psychics, healers, energy workers in hospitals, on the faculty, working alongside doctors, not being seen as like, oh, we've got the Reiki healers in this week. There was none of that. It's like they're taken seriously, they're consulted just as much as the actual doctors. I saw empaths and astrologers on staff in big corporate companies to work with them. I see a world where we are so focused on the results that are best for all of us that the world becomes a smaller place. The world becomes a neighborhood, really, right? And human beings start becoming universal citizens rather than just local ones. every time I go into the future, that's what it looks like. It's just this incredible, cohesive society that looks nothing like what we have now. It's like, almost like they look back and go, there were people starving.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, we
yeah,
had what's money? Do you know what I mean? Like, they just really kind of can't understand that. What do you mean they didn't have astrologers and empaths on staff? Or you
yeah,
don't have energy workers in that time? Like, it's just really strange to them. They just genuinely can't understand an experience of not uh, being so integrated with all of this stuff. It's absolutely amazing.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know where we go, but I know it looks vastly different to this moment in time.
Yeah, and it's like an interlay, and I've always seen it as an interlacing of science and magic together. They've been so separated for so long. We started off together, and then it kind of like got separated, and it's now sort of like time to bring those both back together because they both work so beautifully together that once that happens, things just miraculously happen. The magic is there with the practicality behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally, totally agree. Ray, I know we talked about this once some time ago now, probably a couple of years ago at this point, where clients of ours who work with spiritual healers, mentors, gurus, coaches, etc., who have those alongside their traditional Western medicine, not
Yeah.
only do they tend to fare better in their recovery, but their results tend to last a lot longer as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And and more people will become aware of that. We've kind of like swung so far to one side that it's now trying to get that balance. And as you said, it's going to be going backwards and forwards for a little while before we're truly fully there. But it is going to happen. And I think every single person who's gone into the future with FLP has actually seen that. And it will be in our lifetime as well. It's not sort of like, 100 years in the future. A lot of this stuff will start happening, in the next few years.
Yeah, absolutely. The way that we finish this decade will be vastly different to how we started it. It really, I mean, even just from some of the planetary stuff, and I say this to everybody, that Uranus in Gemini transit that we're about to have is going to revolutionize it. Like what we've seen in tech, developments in tech so far, is nothing compared to what we're going to see. And as you say, like a lot of this is going to happen in our lifetimes, and I think that it's not only is it vital that it does, I think we are a big part of creating the foundation for that world to be built on. And that soul group, even with all the challenges, I know I shout at you quite often. Thank you for letting me be here to experience the shift because it's incredible.
Yeah, we are so blessed to be alive at this time, and things do happen to us, all of us. I know you have, I have, the rug's been pulled out of our feet at certain times, and I know people that are watching. But we get through it. We survive it, and we wouldn't be doing that if we weren't meant to be here at the moment. And know that there are better things coming, even if it doesn't seem like it. And even if your whole life this time, so up to a certain point, you've kind of like, oh, but it's doom and gloom. You are still making a difference because everything you go through is part of the collective energy of helping heal and resolve those issues for everyone. So you might feel like you're going through it alone, but really you're working on the collective, which is how we're all going to which is how we're all going to be and where we're going to go.
I love that. I love it. And it's so true because everything that you do to heal yourself and to really elevate yourself filters out into every life that you touch. And every life that you touch touches another one, right? It's like that whole idea of how one smile can travel the globe. Just, yeah, what a brilliant way to put it, Ray. And, you know, what we're saying, I guess, is with FLP, we can take you to a future that mirrors what you're looking for, right? And when you bring pieces of that back via information, ideas, even just a feeling or an energy, right? And there are times where I've actually had FLP sessions where I haven't necessarily seen a lot of imagery, but I've definitely come away with it with the energy that I needed. And then, like 3, 4 days later, I'll have some incredible idea. Or something will make sense in a completely different way. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's how that works. So the more times we do it and the more times we dip into the future, not only are we bringing that energy into the present, but as I said earlier, with this whole idea of identity shifting, it might only be a fraction, but you are bridging the gap between that future that you see that you desire and where you are at this moment in time. It becomes that much easier. I kind of see it like in that way. FLP is like, it's kind of like a spiritual lubricant in a sense. Do you know what I mean? Like it makes that transition between where we are at this moment in time and where it is that we know we're heading. It makes it easier to access that in some way.
Oh, I like that. I like that. I'm gonna borrow that.
Oh, no, please do. Absolutely. Same.
I love that as a lubricant. And April said when we are talking about, I agree with Mother Nature. She is a pretty boss. She certainly is. And big Steph 62. I don't really loathe anyone. Yeah, Elon Musk has some issues. It's fair to say. But then who doesn't?
I was going to say he's among friends.
Exactly. What's one person's issue is not another person's issue, but it's the understanding and that which I think big Steph 63, which is what you've got. You've got an understanding of that, which is absolutely brilliant. And Sue says, thank you both for putting that thing forward. So if you've got any questions that you want to ask Raf, then please do that. And whilst you're thinking about if you have any questions, as you know, I normally do an oracle card reading or a guided meditation, depending on what my guests would like. But I'm kind of like thinking that Raf could do a tarot card and then I could do an oracle card for everyone watching this live or the replay.
Yeah, absolutely. I have my cards here. So before I pull one, I would like to bless my deck of cards with all forms of love, light, peace, prosperity, and abundance. And I pray that the messages that come through are ultimately clear and concise and they help us all on our paths to our highest vibrational good. Ray, please tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Okay. And we have the Six of Cups. What a beautiful card for this whole connection that we've had, right? This is a card of connection, and it's also a card of nostalgia. This is where we come back to our happier memories or happier times. And given everything that we've talked about, the reboot of humanity, remembering our divine essence, something that you talk about so much, Ray. The interesting thing about this card as well, it's very much a sibling orientated card. So, how about this representing a time where we move back towards our spiritual heritage as humanity? And we start to remember, but more importantly, enact that we really are a global and therefore a universal citizenry. That's how I feel like this really plays out. And I think for all of us here, because this card also represents being given not necessarily just a gift, but being given something that transcends what we need at the moment and will be useful later on. So, in some way, shape, or form, we've all been given something just through this discussion that will really help us probably around 6 weeks from now.
Yeah, beautiful. So I'm going to do an oracle card. So I'll cleanse and bless the cards. And as people know that are watching, when I do the cards, I do the cards for what we need to know out of our highest good at this moment in time. Because even though I work with the past, we go to the past so that we can understand, heal, and clear it so that we can be fully present so it doesn't affect us now. And when we go into the future, we see, feel, understand, know what our future is, the steps. So we come back to the present so we don't worry about it and we stay fully present. So, what does Raph and everyone who's watching this need to know for their highest good at this moment in time? Do you want to tell me when to stop, Raph?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, you're not going to tell me because this car's decided.
Yeah, the universe has decided. Oh, love it.
Exactly. A view from above, get the big picture. Isn't that amazing? And
Wow.
doesn't it tie in with your card, with what we've been talking about? It is, getting the bigger picture of what is going on in the world, how we are all connected, how we can all work with each other. When you can see the bigger view and see where people are going and what they are doing, you can understand it. So then it doesn't affect you as much, and you can then be part of that and work your way to help create that perfect. I wouldn't say that perfect life, but that beautiful connection that we all have with each other.
Yeah, love that. It's uncanny, right? Like literally just dovetailed so well with everything that we've talked about.
Absolutely, it is like all things, synchronicity. I've been talking about this so much recently that we there are so many synchronicities that are coming into our life that are around us all the time. And we really do need to start paying attention to them. We really need to start being curious about these things that are coming in and actually following up with them because they're leading on, they're like little breadcrumbs leading us on our journey.
Yeah, absolutely love that. And so true. Yeah, I think just by being here and having this conversation, I really feel like there's going to be a big one that shows up for all of us in some way that will be directly linked to our experience, but how we sort of fit into that whole, right? That bigger picture. I'm so excited about this. I can't stop smiling now. Just, yeah, I'm really excited by this
I
idea.
I I know it's gonna be so amazing. So, Ralph, I mean, you've given us so much information, but do you have any insights or thoughts to leave our viewers?
Honestly, embrace 2025 and this comes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like everyone in the astrological world is saying 2025 is a year of deep preparation, right? And I agree with that wholeheartedly because 2025 is kind of like a precursor to 2026. But I don't think this is going to be that usual sort of, oh, okay, we'll scurry into our little hermit cave and we'll do everything behind the scenes. This is kind of like, when you go to a restaurant or a bakery and you watch them preparing the food in front of you or in front of everyone, that's going to be the kind of preparation that 2025 represents. You're going to be building it while people are seeing it. And if that is the case, and I know for myself, this is a message for me as well, right? There are going to be moments where you falter, where you make a mistake and you're like, oh crap. And where if you're in that little hermit cave, you can make all of your mistakes and it doesn't really matter. These ones will be a little bit more public. But what that means is not only does it hold us all more accountable, it reminds us that we're human.
Yes.
2025 is going to be a great time to prepare what you're preparing, make what you're making, but do it in front of people so that it reminds you that you are human and it is more than okay to make a mistake or two, because usually that leads you to what you're really trying to create anyway.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful words. So I hope everyone you've enjoyed this conversation and found it insightful. And Big Steph 63 has said, thank you both so much. Very interesting conversation. I'm glad you enjoyed it. That's why I love having Raph on the show, because we just have such amazing conversations, and I always find them so insightful. So if people want to connect with you, Raph, how do they do that? Do you have anything coming up at the moment? Any free gifts offers? Anything that's going on in your life at the moment that you want to share?
So you can find me at Radiant Reality on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I haven't quite jumped onto TikTok yet. Still a bit
Oh, I'm
dubious.
not doing TikTok either. It's like I've got too many other things.
Yeah, right. There's too much else going on, and I've got a lot rattling around up here anyway. So you can find me at Radiant Reality on all of those platforms. In terms of what I have going on at the moment, as of tomorrow, actually, I'm bringing back services that I haven't offered for a long time. So if you like a little bit of retro, make sure you check out my website and stuff tomorrow. It will be on all of my socials as well. And heading into the new year, I've got new courses, new ideas, new sessions that I'll be bringing. So really stay tuned. 2025 is 2025. Because I'm jacked into the future now, clearly, right? But December, I've got a few things that I'm closing down in terms of offers that have already gone out. But January, you're going to see a whole bunch of stuff that I think you're really going to love.
I'm looking forward to it, and I will put the links directly to connect with Raph on his various platforms in the comments once the show's finished. And Cynthia says, "How fascinating, inspirational! Thank you so much." Thank you,
Our
Cynthia.
pleasure. Lovely to see you, Cynthia.
I know. April Lynn, Howard Davis, lovely. Thank you both so much. So yes, thank you so much, Raph, for sharing your wisdom. It has been absolutely amazing as always. And I look forward to the next show that the Angels and Destiny show, and any collaborations we might be doing in the future. So watch this space, everyone.
Stay tuned.
And of course, I'd like to invite you to a free live 20-minute soul path discovery one-to-one video call with me, where during our time together, we'll pull a couple of angel or oracle cards to gain clarity on what's happening in your life right now and what guidance your higher self or the angels may have for you. And if you feel called, I can also share how we can work together, whether through past life regression, to help heal deep-seated patterns, future life progression, to reveal your most aligned path, or angelic Reiki for transformative healing at every level of your being. And, and this is your opportunity to heal deeply, connect to your soul gifts, and step confidently into the life you're always meant to live. And I'd love to start that powerful journey with you. And you can also receive a free gift of Connect with Your Guides, Angels PDF, or a future life progression recording, as well as a couple of other free other gifts by going to the link in the description comments. And again, I want to thank everyone so much for watching, and I'd like to invite you to share this video, as I'm sure there are more people who feel lost and want to get clear on their destiny just like you, and that the information Raph has shared will really help them move forward in their life. And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, then please feel free to subscribe and hit that bell button to be notified when this show goes live. Or I post any new guided meditations or my other shows like Miracle Card Meditation, Your Weekend Reset, because every time you share my work, Raf's work, any of my guests' work, our channels, it really helps with the algorithms, and it gets our message out there to more people, and you can be part of that butterfly effect of helping create this beautiful new energy, this life that we're all going to enjoy so much. So thank you so much, and I look forward to you all joining me same time, same place next week. Take care, everyone. Bye.